You ever watch a game so confusing, so unnecessarily painful, that you're left wondering if you accidentally tuned into a scripted football drama? That's exactly what happened when Shedeur Sanders stepped onto field in a Cleveland Browns uniform to face the LA Rams. And what followed wasn't just a bad game. It felt like a setup, a low-budget ambush disguised as NFL strategy. And everyone saw it, especially Skip Bayless, who practically detonated on national TV. Let's rewind. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Because this wasn't just a disappointing performance. It was a slow-motion football car crash with the hazard lights flashing and no one in the driver's seat. So there's Shedeur Sanders, yes, that's Shedeur, son of prime time, golden-armed QB from Colorado, social media favorite, confidence machine. He finally gets his NFL shot, albeit under Cleveland Browns' eternally cursed umbrella. And let's just say, things go sideways. Quickly, from the first snap, it's obvious. The Browns' offensive line might as well have been made of paper towels. Rams defenders are flying past like they're on fast forward. It's not even blitzes, just regular plays that look like full-on jailbreaks. And poor Shedeur is in the middle of it, scrambling for his life, trying to piece together anything resembling a drive. It wasn't just a lack of protection. The whole offense looked like it was being called from a Madden playbook designed by a sleep-deprived intern. The route concepts? Lazy. Predictable. The kind of stuff that makes even casual fans yell, "What are we doing?" at their TVs. And to Shedeur's credit, he didn't crack. He didn't throw tantrums, slam tablets, or start pointing fingers in the post-game interview. Nah, he stood there, answered the questions, and said he's grateful for every chance he gets. That every day is an opportunity to learn. Mature. Professional. Basically everything the Browns aren't. Now enter Skip Bayless. Yes, the crown prince of sports hot takes, who's made a career out of saying what everyone's afraid to yell. And this time, he didn't hold back. Bayless took one look at what happened and dropped a verbal atomic bomb on the Browns organization. According to him, this wasn't just incompetence. This was sabotage, a deliberate failure to support Shedeur, almost like the franchise never wanted him to succeed in the first place. And before you roll your eyes, look at the receipts. They benched Shedeur in the middle of a critical 2-minute drive. Imagine being told you're the guy, the quarterback, the future, and then being pulled in the middle of a game-deciding series for Tyler Huntley, like this is some JV quarterback tryout. It's not just about who's under center. It's about trust, momentum, rhythm, and they yanked it all out from under him. But Skip wasn't just mad. The guy looked offended, like someone had just insulted football as a concept. He straight up said what a lot of people were whispering. The Browns are setting Shedeur up to fail. It's not that Shedeur played perfectly. He didn't. He had some bad throws, some hesitation, and some clock management issues. But when you're being chased down every other play and your receivers look like they're running routes in molasses, how exactly are you supposed to shine? Skip wasn't just defending Sanders' stats. He was defending his potential. The it factor, that intangible quality that separates a player from a prospect. And if you followed Shedeur through college, you've seen it. The presence, the leadership, the command. He's not some gimmick. He's a quarterback with a high ceiling, and a fan base rooting for him to get a fair shot. Instead, he's stuck behind a franchise that's treating him like an afterthought. According to Skip, the Browns gave Joe Flacco more leeway, more patience, and more respect, and Flacco was basically on a retirement tour. Gabriel got chances. Other QBs were given time to learn, to develop. But when it comes to Shedeur, one bad half, and he's back on the bench like he's some preseason placeholder? It's not just frustrating, it's insulting. And sure, maybe some fans will argue it's about merit, that he hasn't earned anything yet. But if we're going down that road, let's talk about what opportunity really looks like in the NFL. Because for some quarterbacks, one decent drive becomes a whole season. For others, especially young and proven ones, it's one mistake and the door slams shut. That's what this feels like. Like the Browns are quietly setting up a narrative to get rid of Shedeur without making it look like their fault. Oh, well, He just didn't perform. Never mind, he was thrown into a shark tank with no weapons and no life vest. Even his teammates seemed to see it. David Njoku, who's been quietly supportive all season, reportedly stood by Sanders during post-game meetings. It's not like the locker room is turning on him. So what exactly is going on? Skip Bayless had a theory that Cleveland's front office never truly wanted Sanders to succeed, that drafting him or signing him was more about headlines and hype, not a real investment. And now that it's clear the media spotlight isn't enough to cover for poor offensive planning, they're ready to cut bait. In fact, Bayless predicted that Shedeur could be moved to practice squad, or worse, just cut altogether. Let's pause for a second. Can you imagine? Shedeur Sanders practice squad. After all that promise, all that press, and all that pressure, reduced to a footnote, a background character in the Browns' latest quarterback carousel. And yeah, Skip's dramatic, but he's also not wrong. The Browns are famous, infamous, for botching QB development. From Johnny Manziel to Baker Mayfield to the never-ending list of backups that never became starters, this team treats quarterbacks like printer ink, disposable and always in need of a reset. So now the question becomes, does Shedeur stay and hope things change? Or does he leave, if he even gets a chance? Because this is the NFL. Perception is power. One bad game, one ugly tape, and your stock drops fast. And Skip's argument was simple. If Cleveland won't give Sanders a real opportunity, someone else will. It's not a stretch. Look around the league. There are plenty of teams desperate for a young, mobile QB with upside. But the longer he's benched, the harder it gets to sell the potential angle. You can only hype someone for so long before people want proof. And right now, Cleveland isn't letting Shedeur show anything, which makes Skip's on-air meltdown not just understandable, but necessary. Sometimes, it takes someone yelling the obvious into a microphone to force a conversation. And here's the kicker. Skip wasn't even blaming Shedeur for being frustrated. In fact, he commended him for staying composed. Sanders didn't trash the team, didn't storm off the field, didn't subtweet the coaching staff. He just nodded, accepted the benching, and told reporters he's always learning. That's what pros do, even when the system's rigged. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about one bad game. It was about how we treat young quarterbacks, how we project success, and how fast we're willing to pull the plug when it doesn't come immediately. And maybe Skip Bayless is right. Maybe Shedeur was sabotaged. Maybe the Browns never had a real plan for him. Maybe this was just another chapter in Cleveland's never-ending saga of quarterback chaos. But here's the plot twist we're all hoping for. That another team, one with vision and patience, sees what Shedeur brings to the table and gives him the runway he deserves. Because for all the critiques, for all the pressure, and for all the drama, this kid still has the tools. He just needs a team that's not determined to lose him behind a broken O-line and an even more broken system. So let's hand out a couple of imaginary awards while we're here. Most likely to fumble a franchise QB? That's going straight to the Cleveland Browns front office. Congrats, you've done it again. Most dramatic monologue by a sports analyst? Skip Bayless, obviously, for delivering the football version of Free Britney with a straight face and absolutely zero chill. And most underrated poise under fire? Shedeur Sanders, for surviving the Browns' meltdown with his head held high. Will he get another shot in Cleveland? Unlikely, but maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe this is the messy beginning of something bigger. Because if the NFL is a drama, and it definitely is, every underdog needs a betrayal before their breakout arc. And if you made it this far, I want to hear from you. Was Skip Bayless spitting facts, or just stirring the pot again? Is Shedeur being misused? Or is this just how the NFL grinds down its new blood? Drop a comment. Tell me your take. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more weekly breakdowns of the wildest moments in sports media chaos. Because you know next week's meltdown is already brewing. Oh, we are not done. Because the Shedeur Sanders saga isn't just about one quarterback getting lost in the Cleveland abyss. It's about how this league, time and time again, chews up potential and spits it out before it even gets a fair audition. And let's be honest. If you were a rising star with all eyes on you and suddenly found yourself sidelined behind a carousel of backups and last-chance veterans, wouldn't you start to wonder if the whole thing was rigged from the jump? Let's dig deeper into how we got here, because this isn't just some football fluke. This is a slow burn disaster that's been brewing from the moment Shedeur's name started floating around in NFL circles. The hype was massive. The expectations? Sky high. Being Deion Sanders' son? That alone guaranteed attention. Add in his charisma, his pocket presence, his arm talent. It was the perfect storm of football royalty and Gen Z swagger. And the Browns, in their eternal quest to figure it out, jumped on it. Or at least, they made it look like they did. But here's the plot twist no one wanted. Turns out, Cleveland might have picked up Shedeur not to build around him, but to use him. Use his name. Use the attention. Use the merch sales, the fan buzz, the off-season headlines. It's hard not to feel like this was more of a branding move than a football one. Like they were betting on prime-time clout instead of long-term vision. Let's talk about that 2-minute drill. Because if there's one decision that deserves its own "what were you thinking" docuseries, it's this. Shedeur had just started settling in. Rough start, sure, but he wasn't unraveling. And then boom, he's pulled, replaced, yanked out of the game at the most crucial moment. You can practically hear the confidence being vacuumed out of the stadium. There's a rhythm to quarterbacking. You need to feel the tempo of the game, get into sync with your offense, adjust the pressure. And then right when Shedeur starts to show a glimmer of control, they switch him out like it's musical chairs? That's not coaching. That's chaos. And look, this isn't about Tyler Huntley. Respect to him. He's a solid player. But he wasn't lighting it up either. So what was the point? Was this punishment? Was it panic? Or was it something uglier? Like a decision rooted in the staff already giving up? You can't develop a quarterback if you treat him like a seat filler. And the Browns, true to form, seem to be doing just that. And here's where Skip Bayless's fire and brimstone rant really started hitting nerves. Because he wasn't just pointing fingers, he was calling out patterns. The NFL is full of teams that do this. Hype a young QB, use him for PR, and then toss him aside when things don't click instantly. No time to develop. No real investment. Just vibes and disappointment. He named names. He compared Shedeur's situation to others. Players who were given years to grow through mistakes. Guys like Josh Allen, who looked awful in their early games, but had organizations willing to play the long game. And now, Allen's a franchise quarterback. That's the difference support makes. But Shedeur, he gets a few shaky quarters behind a leaky O-line, and suddenly the whispers start. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he's just a college star. Maybe we should cut him. Excuse me? We're tossing around cut after one bad showing in one of the most dysfunctional systems in the league? It's not just cruel, it's lazy. Because it's easier to blame the player than admit your system is broken. And let's not ignore what Skip pointed out so clearly. The politics. It's not just about talent. It's about who gets grace and who gets scrutiny. Some QBs are handed excuses on silver platters. Oh, he needs more weapons. His O-line is struggling. The scheme's outdated. But Shedeur, he gets none of that. He gets silence from the coaching staff and passive-aggressive benchings. That's not how you groom a star. That's how you sabotage one. And it's so frustrating because the talent is there. You can see flashes of it even in the mess. The footwork, the pocket awareness, the ability to extend plays, the poise under pressure, especially post-game, when he's thrown under the bus and still shows up with maturity. That's the stuff you build on. But nope, the Browns seem allergic to patience. And now we're hearing rumors, which, let's be honest, feel very intentional, that he might be demoted, practice squad, possibly cut. And the vibe is, let's see if another team picks him up. Which, if you squint, sounds an awful lot like, let someone else do the work of developing him. We're done. Skip's suggestion? Free Shedeur. Get him out of Cleveland and onto a roster that sees him as more than a branding experiment. A team with a competent O-line. A real quarterback coach. A GM that doesn't treat QB development like a game of whack-a-mole. Because here's the thing. You only get so many shots in the NFL. And once you're labeled as not ready or inconsistent, that stigma sticks. It becomes part of your resume, even if it wasn't your fault. Which makes this all the more urgent. If Shedeur stays in Cleveland, continues to get benched, continues to be handed doomed situations, how long before the narrative around him changes permanently? You know the media won't wait. They'll shift from praising his college tape to dissecting his flaws in 4K slow motion. Can't read defenses. Too reliant on his legs. Doesn't have that next-level arm talent. You can already hear the analysts warming up their takes. So yeah, Skip Bayless might have been yelling, but he wasn't wrong. Shedeur needs a team that's invested in his growth. Not just for show, not just for press conferences, but for the long haul. Because there's a difference between letting someone fail and setting them up to fail. And right now, it's looking a lot like the latter. Let's be real. Cleveland needs to look in the mirror. This isn't a Shedeur problem. This is a them problem. And if they do end up cutting him, let's all remember exactly how we got here. One final word. You ever notice how certain teams are always in rebuild mode? Always almost there? Always looking for the next answer instead of developing the one they already have? That's not bad luck. That's bad culture. And until that changes, they'll keep repeating the same cycle. Burning out potential, rotating quarterbacks like rental cars, and wondering why nothing sticks. As for Shedeur, this might be the messy middle of his NFL journey, but something tells me it's not the end. Whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere with a functional front office and an actual plan, his story's far from over. We just hope it's written somewhere that knows how to turn promise into production. Because let's face it, this isn't just a Shedeur Sanders story anymore. It's a cautionary tale, a football fable, a tragic comedy wrapped in shoulder pads and poor play calling. And the saddest part? We've seen this movie before. A young quarterback shows promise. Fans rally behind him. He brings energy, charisma, upside. But the team? They throw him into the fire with no water, no extinguisher, just a laminated playbook and a pat on the back. Then when it predictably burns aground, they shrug and go, I guess he didn't have it. Sound familiar? The NFL has a nasty little habit of mistaking potential for polish. And in Shedeur's case, the moment things got rough, the Browns didn't lean in, they pulled back. Hard. It's almost like they were waiting for an excuse to bench him. That's not development. That's deflection. And it sends a message loud and clear. You're only good here if you're already great. Meanwhile, the veterans, guys who've had years to figure out, get grace periods the size of Texas. Joe Flacco can throw ducks for 3 quarters, and the narrative becomes he's just warming up. But when Shedeur misses a read while dodging 3 defenders before the ball's even snapped, he's not ready for pros. Miss me with that double standard. But here's where it really gets personal. Shedeur isn't just another rookie. He's walking into this league with a target on his back. People are waiting to tear him down, not because of who he is, but because of who his dad is. Deion Sanders is one of the most polarizing figures in sports, and fair or not, Shedeur inherits that spotlight. Every move he makes is under a microscope. Every stumble, magnified. That adds pressure most rookies never have to deal with. And still, he's showing more composure than the people who are supposed to be mentoring him. When Skip Bayless went scorched earth on the Browns, it wasn't just drama for ratings. It was frustration boiling over. Because there's a genuine fear that this league will waste yet another talented young player simply because he didn't check every box on some arbitrary, outdated checklist. And while we're here, can we talk about how quiet the Browns have been through all this? No public support. No clear statement of confidence. No, we believe in Shedeur, and he's part of our future. Just awkward silence and passive decisions. That silence, it speaks volumes. If they were serious about his development, they'd say it. They'd show it. You don't build a quarterback by benching him mid-drive like it's a game of Madden, and you're rage-quitting after an interception. You build a quarterback by letting him learn. Letting him fail, yes, but fail in a system that's trying to help him, not trap him. And don't get it twisted. This isn't just about football. This is about the narrative. Because right now, Shedeur is one headline away from being written off as another overhyped bust. Not because of who he is, but because of how Cleveland is choosing to handle his arc. But it's not too late. There's still time, barely, for someone in that front office to course correct. to step up and say, we believe in this kid. We're giving him the keys, the time, and the tools to grow. Because if they don't, some other team will. And when Shedeur goes off somewhere else, the Browns are going to look real silly explaining why they gave up on a guy before the ink even dried on his jersey. The truth is, Shedeur Sanders might not be ready to carry a franchise right this second. But guess what? Almost no one is. You think Justin Herbert was winning playoff games year one? You think Jalen Hurts didn't get doubted? Quarterbacking isn't magic. It's evolution. And all Shedeur needs is a space to evolve. Because if there's one thing he's proven, time and time again, it's resilience. He's not flinching. He's not blaming. He's not folding. And in the NFL, that's half the battle right there. So whether Cleveland wakes up or another team swoops in to rescue him, one thing's for sure. Shedeur Sanders is not done. He's just waiting for someone to stop sabotaging the setup and start believing in the build. But hey, I'll leave it up to you. Is this just typical rookie turbulence? Or are the Browns quietly torpedoing another potential star? Drop your take in the comments, because you already know we're watching this one unfold like a slow-motion sports soap opera. And if you want more breakdowns of the beautiful disasters we call pro sports, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, the drama is never off season.